I just can't let go, let go. Everybody tell me.
Welcome everybody to the student section. This is your host CJ Hayes, joined by your co-host Chaos 1.0.
Yes, sir. What's up, everybody? Maverick coming out November 22nd. Everybody tune in.
This is episode 1. They wouldn't call them Hurtles if you didn't get over them. With our guest Lindsay Salada. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
That's good. So we're gonna learn about your story today. What do you want to tell us?
Yes. This is the story of how I broke my first bone, which was my collarbone, one of the worst ones to break. So it happened during track season last spring in April. It was actually 2 days before the first race of the season. So I was already conditioned. I was trying to do my best, you know? And I stayed after practice that Thursday. And I was having some issues with my blocking and footing for going over the 300 hurdles. Because when you do that, you can't really count your steps to know when to jump. So one of my friends who also stayed after helped me with it. And he set up my blocking and he told me roughly amount of what I had to step so I could count. And so I get in my block, and I'm ready. I'm like, I can do this. I'm going to get it done. And he counts me off, and I go, and I sprint. And as I'm going, I'm like, oh, this is going to be so good. My form is great. My footing is pretty good. I go and jump over. And I look down, and my lead leg is not in front of me. And your lead leg is supposed to be the thing that goes over the hurdle.
Right.
During this, it felt like it was slow motion, as I was falling over. So what happened was my foot got caught underneath the hurdle instead of going over it, so I flipped over the hurdle. An actual front flip over the hurdle in the middle of practice, and none of the coaches saw me. They just heard me hit the ground really hard.
Dang.
They just heard that thud on the track.
Like a meteor.
Yeah, basically. And so I landed on my shoulder when I fell over, and I roll around and I'm holding my shoulder, and I couldn't really feel anything. I was just confused as what happened, because I blacked out for a second when I hit the ground. And my friend, he comes running over screaming at me Lizzie, are you okay? Are you okay? And he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm looking at the sky, not knowing what's happening. And he runs to the athletic office to get one of the trainers. And my coaches finally come over, and they're like, okay, are you okay? What happened? And I'm like, I don't know. I fell. That's all that was comprehending in my brain at this point. And then some of the other athletes come over and try to make sure I'm okay. They're like, are you cold? Are you, what's happening? Do you hurt? And I was like, I don't know. Because at that moment, it was 30, 40 degrees outside. I would typically be cold in that situation, but I could not feel anything because all the blood was rushing to my shoulder. At that moment, I did not know, and I could not tell, but my shoulder was up to my ear, yeah. It was bad. It was
Igor
I was holding it, and I couldn't I could not feel my shoulder, and there was it felt like there was a needle pressing into my collarbone.
I don't do needles.
And so finally my friend comes back with the trainer, and he tells me his name, and I was like, okay. I was telling him my name. He was doing the whole concussion thing to make sure, and he asked me what happened. So it was again, I fell. Yeah. I don't know what happened.
So what's the concussion thing like?
He just asked me what my name was, what day it was, what was going on. Just simple questions to make sure I didn't have a concussion, so I knew what was going on. So I passed that. It was fine. I get up, he helps me get up, and the first step was just shooting pain into my shoulder. And I was like, what is going on? This does not feel right. It was so, it was not okay. And so the trainer walked into the locker room to call my stepmom. And before this, I had asked her to bring me food because I had a cappella right after. Dang. And she said, well, just bring your own food and pack it with you. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But I called her in the locker room, and she was joking around oh, let me guess, you're injured or something because you need food. And I was like, actually, I am. I did hurt myself, and like I almost started crying because I was like stressed and it was bad. Like it didn't hurt at the time because of all the adrenaline, and then
It was started sinking.
Yeah, it was like starting to sink in a little bit, and it was like because I just knew something was wrong, and then my coach drove me to the training room. Sat there for a few minutes. My stepmom picked me up. She gets me in her car, and like driving would hurt. Like I did not put the seatbelt on because like I couldn't like get it over. Like I literally could not move my arm. And we get to the emergency room, and Miss Evans like, "Do you want me to call your mom?" I'm like, no, I don't want to deal with her like stress because I didn't want to stress anyone.
Yeah.
And so we get into the emergency room, and I'm like holding my arm still, like it obviously looks like there's something wrong. I'm like, okay, you just need to wait for a few minutes and we'll get to you. We sit there, it's like 30 minutes, and we're like, I'm like bawling because I'm like sitting there getting aggravated because they're not getting me in the room.
Lizzie,
and it was not okay because like I knew something was wrong, but I wanted to get in there because people who were sitting there looking fine were going in there before me. But so we got in there. I'm like crying still. They had to like I had a long sleeve shirt on because it was cold outside while I was running. So they had to help me take that off. They didn't cut it.
Yeah.
So like I had to like move my shoulder, and the pain that I felt was insane. Like it was like someone was like stepping on my collarbone while I was like I can't even explain it that well. But that was in the emergency room where everyone was trying to take it out, and then my dad and my mom came with my stepmom, so they were all in there, and we were waiting, and they gave me some drugs so the pain would go away, and we wait for a little bit more, and the doctor comes, and he's like, okay, and he like checks it out, and like he like kind of had like a look, and I was like, okay. It was the same look that the trainer gave me when he saw like the collarbone. And he goes away, and they come up with an x-ray me, and it was really bad because I couldn't move, and I had to be in a certain place, but, like, how I broke it was, like, really weird, but, like, that'll come in later. They x-rayed it, we got it back, and she actually showed it, like, the lady who x-rayed it, she showed it to my parents before, because they wanted to see it, and they were like, their eyes just, like, opened like really wide, and like I was like, oh crap, like what's happening? They came back, I saw the x-ray. I literally snapped my collarbone. It was so normal collarbone is like roughly straight. It like bent up and like broke in half, but it was like still in half, so it was like at like an angle of like, so like my collarbone looked like a little triangle of like how it broke. It was bad. And so all they gave me was a sling. And so I had to go home, and I went to doctors the following day, but that night, like, sleeping with that was terrible. Like, you can't sleep with, like, that. Yeah. But, like, I just, with all of this, like, I went to the doctors, they got me a proper brace, and it's, like, healed now. It, like, still bothers me sometimes, but, like, through all of that, I still find it hilarious how I broke my first bone, my collarbone, by falling over a hurdle.
And I won't lie, that time seeing you in a sling, it was pretty funny. Because seeing anybody in pain, I'm not gonna lie, it's funny. There's a certain chemical in our brains as humans that we love to see people getting hurt. And just watching you get hurt, though, that's even more near and dear to me.
Wow, thanks, Joe.
No, you made it through, though. You don't have a sling on right now, so, yeah.
You're pretty good.
Healed.
Well, I mean, I actually, like, there's, like, a bump on my collarbone, and it's not entirely straight, so you can, like, if you look at it, you can tell I broke it.
Like something happened. That's gross.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a little gross. It's fine.
That's pretty cool. That's
Like, you can tell, and, like, one of my one shoulder is, like, lower sometimes, because, like, how it sits, and, like, I would be, like, walking to school with my book bag, and, like, that, like, pressure will, like, just hurt it, and I'll just have to, like, slide that arm off.
Good Lord. Dang. And how long did you have this sling for?
it went into, so I broke it at the end of February, and then I had to go to state conference with that broken collarbone. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For drama club.
Yeah, it was not fun.
That whole trip, that weekend, you went with it.
I went with a broken collarbone. Or clavicle is what I think. That's what it's actually called.
My scapula!
My scapula. But it was probably like, okay, I had the actual sling probably for like 4 or 5 weeks, and then they gave me like a shoulder brace to like push the bone down and like my shoulders back. Probably had that for like 6-7 weeks. Like it was a lot, and then it still like wasn't like fully healed.
Jeez.
And then I had regular checkups, and they like x-rayed it to like see the progress. And after a while, I noticed there was like a little white spot underneath my collarbone. I was like, what is that? And my doctor goes, well, yeah, it's just new bone growth.
New bone growth.
It was the weirdest thing, like, because like your body like just repairs itself. Yeah. So like I actually have like bone grown over the break.
I was gonna say, like, so is your bone like gonna connect the actual bone back together, or is it just gonna be
it just like
a
grew.
new bone
it was,
gonna connect to the slightly...
Well, it's like the bone like grew around where the break was.
Oh god.
How is it right now?
So what was go ahead.
Oh no, you go. It's fine.
I was basically gonna ask, like, what's your takeaway from this story?
What's my takeaway?
Yeah, like what did you learn? What did you think you might have learned?
I actually learned to not overthink like just everyday things, because like breathing would hurt, coughing would hurt, sneezing, walking hurt, just existing just hurt for the longest time.
That's crazy.
And it was my right arm, and like I'm right-handed. I draw, I could not draw.
Dang.
For the longest time, and that really hurt me.
And yeah, I know you love to do that.
And
too,
I could not like just do basic things like eating, doing my makeup, doing my hair, I had to get help putting on like clothes.
Dang.
Because I could not move my arm.
Right.
Dude, I cannot move my arm that way. And it took me a while. It also made me realize that it's okay to get help, like when you need it.
Right.
Because at first I did not want help from anyone. I was like, I can do this by myself. I don't want anyone to help me. I'm independent.
Yeah.
But then I realized I actually do need help, because I was actually broken.
Yeah, take
like,
a seat. Yeah, sit.
It was.
Nah, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, it made me realize some things, and like, gain some more strength in my left arm.
Yeah.
Because I had to use
physical
it.
Therapy.
I did go to physical therapy. Yes. It was. I wasn't in the sling. Then I don't think I might have been in the sling. When I was in the sling, I was just going to the training room after school and icing it. Mm-hmm. And then once I got out of the sling, they gave me some like shoulder workouts to like build that strength. And I was in there probably till the end of the school year, like going to the training room, icing it, and working up my strength again. And then over the summer, I had to work out, because when I broke it, all of those muscles in there just broke. I mean, not broke. Right. They just, died because of the break. So, I had to rebuild all that. It was a fun experience.
Made a great story out of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have.
All right.
Thanks for coming to the student section.
Yeah, thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thanks for having me.
No problemo.
Well, that's our cue.
Yeah. Alrighty, everybody. This is CJ Hayes, Chaos 1.0, and Lizzie Salata. And you have just listened to the first episode of the student section.